He's built teams of over 250,000 people across the globe. We have such an honor to have him teaching us every single Monday night. He tunes in, takes the time out of his busy schedule. He is one of the most successful network marketers in history. In fact, he's earned over 8 figures and continues to help other people by paying it forward, teaching us how to do the exact same thing, set our lives on a financial freedom path, as well as our health and wellness. I'd like to bring him to the line. We're super excited. We have a guest speaker tonight, Stephen. We're very excited to have you here. I'm going to turn the line over to you.
All right, you got it there, Danny. Thank you so much. And, guys, I want to echo Danielle's sentiments, guys. Welcome to the call tonight. We literally have hundreds upon hundreds of people check into the line tonight from across the United States. We heard them checking in from as far west as Oregon, Washington State, California, spreading out into the far upper northwest, into New York and Boston, those areas, down in Florida, all the way across into Texas, of course, the great Midwest. And, guys, we are here for a very special call tonight. I want to echo one other thing Danielle said. I want to welcome those of you tonight who may be on the call as a guest. In other words, you're not yet a member of our Zilis family. We certainly think you may want to reconsider that here by the end of the call. But nonetheless, guys, we're just excited you're here. We have a very special guest speaker tonight. I'm not the star tonight, guys. We actually have a nationally recognized expert that's featured in Esquire magazine. He's one of the nation's most preeminent and most respected functional medical doctors in the nation. He's going to be talking about a very powerful breakthrough in naturopathic health, guys, a breakthrough that you and your family absolutely need to know about, guys. And he's going to talk about what he feels and he considers to be the most preeminent product in that area here tonight. But before we jump in, this is a team call. We do it every single Monday night. And what we want to do here, as we hear so many of you guys, and we're just looking at our listener questions, guys, checking in across the country. Matter of fact, guys, get this. Check this out. You can actually go online to www.ziliswebinar, that is ZILIS webinar.com, and you can actually submit questions for Dr. Andry tonight. Now, obviously, we will not get into direct medical consulting of an individual person or specific, individual sentiment, that sort of thing. Obviously, that's not the purpose of our call. But if you want to know more, if you want to understand, in a generalized sense, specific components of the product and of not just that, but just of the technology, the science, if you will, that is behind something called full spectrum hemp oil, you can actually submit your listener questions at www.ziliswebinar.com. That is ZILIS. But I want to do at this point in time, guys, that I'm really honored and just jazzed to have a chance to do this, and that is to introduce our special guest speaker here tonight. So let me tell you a little bit about Matt Andry. Matt is a medical doctor out of Bloomington, Indiana, and I want to give you a little background on Dr. Andry of how we came to get together, how we have gotten to know each other, and how we have begun to build a very solid relationship based on mutual goals and a mutual vision. Dr. Andry is one of the most talented, gifted, functional medical practitioners I've ever been around in my entire life. And he goes back with Dr. De Silva, our chief medical officer, for many years. So often when you get around MDs, medical doctors, right, they've been trained in Western medicine. That's all they do. That's all they kind of want to, focus their energy on, et cetera, kind of doing things the way they've always been done and just kind of going with the flow of what everybody else is doing. Dr. Andry is a visionary. Guys, over a decade ago, he actually took his practice to a cash-based, system, if you will. Why? Because he did not want to be bound by insurance companies, to be bound to treating his patients the way that an insurance company would tell him that he had to do, because they're paying the premiums, et cetera, right? They're paying for the services. Instead, he had courage, he had vision. People told him he was absolutely crazy, but he took his practice to 100% cash basis, meaning when you show up to get a service, you pay cash for it. Well, guys, how well does it work? Let me tell you something right now. You cannot get an appointment with Dr. Andry. Why? Because he is that in demand, guys. He has patients that come in from across the nation to see him because, you know what, they want the truth. And one of the things that I love about Dr. Andry, he will look you in the eye, whether you like it or not. He will tell you the truth about what to do for your health. But he doesn't just give you what is trained in traditional Western medicine. He also gives you the alternative therapies as well. And he's got the courage, and he's got the fortitude and the vision to do that. And because of that, he is changing lives from a health perspective. And we cannot be more blessed. We could not be more excited to have Matt a part of our team at Zilis. And we've got big announcements around that coming up soon. But guys, the bottom line, he and Maddie are on fire. They are sharing Zilis everywhere they go. Why? Because they believe in the product. And you're going to have a chance to hear that here tonight. This is also why Matt was recently featured in Esquire magazine, because of his unique vision of actually bringing real health care to real people. And Matt, I want to welcome you to the line. It's our first time to ever have you as a official speaker, if you will. You've obviously been very involved in what we're doing here at Zilis. And I love the way you've come in and just, man, you just come in like a leader. You just, started interjecting ideas, strategies, opinions, just how do we take this and refine this and make it even better than it already was, if you will. And I love you for that. What I want to do tonight is turn the floor over to you. We have got hundreds and hundreds of people that are on this call tonight that want to know about the secrets of full-spectrum hemp oil, why it works the way it does. And I want to remind all of you, we have listener questions tonight. You can actually submit to Dr. Andry. We will get to as many of those questions as we can at www.ziliswebinar.com. So with no further ado, I want to welcome all the way from Bloomington, Indiana, Dr. Matthew Andry. Matt, take it away.
Steve, thank you so much. I can't tell you how honored Maddie and I are to be part of this. I have to tell you, if anyone would have asked me 3 months ago that I would be involved in this project, I would not have ever believed that I would be. I knew some about CBD oil. I knew some about the use of cannabinoids, but I knew nothing about Zilis. And actually, part of that's my fault because Maddie, as is way too often the case, was kind of right before I was, and brought this to me 2 months before I ever used the product or stepped forward with the company. And, what I've found is that the people that are involved have quickly become resources and good friends. And I've never worked with a group that takes to heart so much the idea of pay it forward, the idea of how you do what is right and best for yourself. And what's so great about the structure is that you're at the same time helping many, many other people at the same moment. And that, in my experience, extremely unique. I come from the medical world, which very much, unfortunately, is a money-driven world. And I'm not claiming money is wrong. I like it. I think we should have it. I just want the people who tend to make good decisions for themselves and others to have most of it. And that is way too rare a thing. And, I have really high goals, and one of them is to empower, make this a vehicle to empowering other people to take more control of their own health, help their friends and family take control of their health as well. And that includes finances. Finances get left out of the discussion often as an aspect of health. But if your finances aren't healthy, then you're not healthy. So that's why I feel, I've had some of my colleagues feel like, gosh, why would you get involved at all in a multi-level marketing company? But I don't think of it in terms of categorizing, what a company is. I think about it in terms of the people, what's their mission, and what kind of tools are they bringing. And everything I've stepped forward and seen about Zilis and the things that they do has warmed me, has made me feel better about it. There's not been an incident in one thing that Maddie and I have stepped forward. We've not felt like, wow, we've been waiting for this for a long time. So getting to do this and partner with Zilis and you, Stephen, and Angie, on this, and Tony and Jenny, it's a no less than a dream come true. There are 2 things I love doing. Well, there's more than that, but 2 things that I really love doing are treating patients, and I love teaching. And I do that on small scales and large scales. I teach at the Indiana University School of Medicine. And one thing I teach my students from the first time they meet each semester, I tell them, I say, guys, don't get married to ideas. And they kind of look at me funny when I say that. And they go, well, why? I say, because if you're going to be a lifelong learner, which you all should be, you don't want a bunch of messy divorces. And what I mean in saying that is understand that what I'm going to tell you tonight is in no way the gospel truth. We don't know it, but we can point to it. We can point at it. And so everything you're going to hear tonight, know it as information in the continuum. And as we continue to learn, we're going to get better and better and closer at a real understanding of what some of these compounds can do for us in our health. So, again, some of this information comes to me from our good friend and partner, Dr. De Silva. Derek De Silva has been a colleague of mine now, as Stephen mentioned, for many years. And we've lectured together, we've talked together. He's helped me with ideas. And he's another gentleman who's involved in healthcare who really enjoys thinking, who thinks that protocols are a barrier to health for ourselves and for our patients. And I just want to honor him in this moment and say how much I appreciate his input and his helping bring these tools that we're going to get to take to patients and our friends and family. So we're going to talk just a moment about wellness. What is wellness? And one reason to say this is that a great limitation, and in a way a strength, of most Western medicine is that we are what's called, in general, pathology-based, meaning that one of the real early classes that one takes in medical school is called pathology. In essence, we learn health by studying disease. So we focus on what's wrong, and we're told to do that. And that leads to a way of thinking that has inherent limitations, okay? So when you're going to a medical doctor or a care extender who's trained by medical people, they think in terms of you're going to tell them how you're feeling. They're going to try to categorize that into what's wrong. Well, I came from a little different background, and not so much medical school. Medical school taught me that exact same paradigm. But who did not was my dad. My father is a chiropractor, and I remember very much being 9, 10 years old, and 10 o'clock at night, he would get a call from someone whose back was hurt, and he'd say, come on, Matt, let's go. And he would literally throw a chiropractic table in the back of the van, and then we would go and see someone at 10 o'clock at night. And I would watch him make people better. I would watch them get up and be so thankful and appreciative and watch the basically, let's just say what it is, the love that gets exchanged between people who are trying to heal others and then people who receive that benefit. And I was just mesmerized. And when I got into college and I was thinking about going to professional school, I wanted, I was like, maybe I should just be a chiropractor. And Dad told me, he said, look, if you like medicine, Matt, that's fine. He said, it doesn't matter the letters that are behind your name, whether that's Dr. Chiropractic, DC, or an MD. He only asked me one thing. He said, you make damn sure everyone that leaves your office does so with their dignity intact. And I've taken that to heart. And one of the ways to do that is to not focus on people as a collection of illnesses. And the way to not do that is to focus on wellness, to understand wellness as a basis, and when things get out of balance. Hormones being one, but other things. When things are out of balance, we're not going to function correctly. We're not going to function at our best. And if we can identify what those imbalances are and can move them back to a more balanced state, then we're going to work better. And that's as complex as you have to make it. And that's why when people come in to me and they say, well, the doctor says I have this, and I said they have this, and they said I have this, we always start from scratch and go, well, maybe not. I'd say that's what's been identified, but let's start further from that. Let's back up from that, and let's focus on some of these things like this slide says here. What are the components that contribute to your having a well-being, a well body that's working to help you fulfill your purpose on this planet? Well, one, and at the top, and I don't think it's a mistake at the top, is conscious eating. Every food you all eat is a drug. Your body does not know the difference between a Lipitor pill and a chicken breast. or an avocado, if you take it in and chew it and swallow it, it's going to end up in your cells and in your bloodstream. The body does not make any discrimination as to the wholeness of that product. It's going to take it in. And I believe that people do nothing more than just understand that what they put in their body gets treated as the same as a drug does. Perhaps they can take just a little more thoughtfulness to it. But that is an absolute paramount thing. Next, I'm going to go to the right, is hormone balancing. Hormones, in essence, are kind of the language of the body. They're one of the ways that the body communicates with itself. And if those hormones are not correct, are not in right alignment and in right balance with each other, then your body can't do that. And that is a major problem with health, with losing wellness. And, people say, well, gosh, Dr. you do a lot of hormone management. Why? Why do you focus on that? And a lot of these people are coming because they're interested in a topic, say, as anti-aging. And what I like to say, and this is not my quote, I've got it from other people, but I love it, is the point is it's not that our hormones drop because we get older. We get older because our hormone levels drop. And folks, I need you to know, if you understand nothing else tonight what I said, know this. Cannabinoids are a hormone. They are one of the hormones in your body that requires balancing. And if they are not balanced, then all of the body systems that cannabinoids interact with cannot work right. And that is why replacing those cannabinoids with a product like Pure 7 hemp oil can help you achieve better balance and cause you to see improvement in body functions that you would not have begun to believe possible. All the time, I have to say, when I try to explain to people what this potentially can do to help people, they look mesmerized or they think I'm making it up. But the reason is very simple. Every system in your body uses cannabinoids as a way to regulate itself. And if those cannabinoids aren't present, you can't do that. So another element of wellness are vitamins and supplements. Why are these important? Dr. De Silva says this so well. He talks about the difference in the amount of iron in a cup of spinach now versus a cup of spinach from the 1930s. The reason you need to take vitamins and supplements is not because we want you to buy a bunch of our pills. It's because the food you eat doesn't have it in it anymore. It doesn't have it anymore because the ground doesn't have it anymore. Our soil is sick. And one of the ways that we hope, one of my goals, is to try to forward those industries that are helping to put the nutrition back in the ground. If we can have a healthy ground, we can have healthier food. If we have healthier food, we'll have a healthier us. The next circle you'll see on this integrated wellness piece is movement. We are built to move. And one of the great, I remember Nikolai Tesla famous for saying, one of the reasons he did what he did with bringing electricity to people was he wanted to remove the drudgery of life. And we've gotten really, really good at that. Now we have conveniences for everything. But what it has done, there's always a cost to pay for that. We don't need to move anymore. We didn't have cars 100 years ago. And that simple ability to travel around a lot more places has opened up the world to us. But it has cost us it's really moving to get from place to place nearly like we used to. And that has cost because our body was not developed to do that. It was developed to move. And when we lack that movement, it can be and is as harmful for us as not having nutrition. The last piece on this slide is mindfulness. And mindfulness, I a great deal. Even if people aren't willing or don't feel sort of encouraged at the moment to really change their eating, then I at least ask them to be mindful about it. Pay attention. Don't do unconsciously. Don't just sit around and believe that it doesn't matter. So if you take choice into the equation, and if you get more choosy about those things that you do, it's quite likely you're going to make a positive difference, even if you're doing something that maybe in the long run isn't what you end up doing for your best health. I'll go to my next slide here. Let's talk about CBD oil for just a minute. So what if there was a supplement that your body is hardwired to need? One of the things I want to point out is, we're so limited in life, but it's very true in medicine, by what we name things. And we didn't name these products in our body endocannabinoids because that's what God named them. We named them because we identified things in our body that work similar two compounds we found in the cannabis plant. So we named them after the plant. It just so happens that tons of things in that plant interact very, very efficiently with receptors in our body that work with our cannabinoids. So and that is a model that is true with most of the foods we eat in some form or another, but the family of molecules that are in the hemp plant that interact with our body is incredibly powerful. And that is why I believe people have turned to this plant for millennia as a natural medicine, as something to help their bodies work better. One of the things, if you are in healthcare yourself or if you interact with many people who are in healthcare, if you go to many of my colleagues and you start to talk to them about a new treatment, especially a supplement, what are they going to say? Well, and here it is, well, there's no studies, or show me the studies. And what's unfortunate is a whole lot of the time, and this is one of the most pristine examples that there is, there's plenty of data on the use of CBD, Cannabidiol, that's the long name of it, for use in health, for use in medical purposes, for medical conditions. The data is out there. They just haven't read it. And they haven't been presented it. It doesn't show up in the journals that show up on our doorstep all the time. Sometimes it's in the ones you got to pay for. Why would I pay for it if I get others for free? Because they're determining the information you get. You have to look to find good information. And if you look for good information on CBD and health, it is there. It is not made up. It's well known. One of my good colleagues that I talked to just this last week who's in medicine started on, I'm trying to remember, Steve, what day it was. It was a little over a week ago, on looking at the number of studies that demonstrate CBD and its use in a variety of medical conditions. And he was blown away. He came back to me and said, how have I not known about this? He was floored by the depth of data that's already present. And it is out there for anybody who feels challenged by the fact that there's not information. There's plenty. But despite that, not only our physicians, not only our healthcare providers, but most Americans are not aware of CBD oil and its benefits itself. So what kind of things have the data, the medical studies already shown that CBD oil can help improve? And here's just a small list, but it includes these things: pain, inflammation, anxiety, sleep problems. It can help suppress your appetite. Why does it do that? Well, CBD and THC. CBD comes from the hemp plant. CBD is also in marijuana, but the hemp plant does not contain THC. That is the big difference between hemp and marijuana chemically. Marijuana is a female plant. It makes buds. That's where the THC largely exists. Almost all of it exists there. In the male plant, it doesn't have buds. So there is no, actually extremely, extremely small amounts of THC, not enough to matter or cause a clinical effect. But there is CBD, and CBD and THC in general look to balance each other. So when it comes to appetite, if THC gives you the munchies, what would CBD give you? That's right, the anti-munchies. So it can be an appetite suppressant, and it can help people follow the kind of diet that it takes to achieve that wellness that we talked about. Another thing that's been very well documented, and there are some extraordinary videos that are available online to look at the way that CBD can help those with movement disorders, Parkinson's disease, dyskinesias, people that have these problems. It comes from disordered nerve function. And if you can add more cannabinoids to that system, it can find a place of balance. And that is a miraculous cure that we really don't have any other drugs that do anything close to that with that little side effects. Let me say something about that too. In reality, I don't use the term side effects much because I don't believe there are such a thing as side effects. I'm just going to let that sit a minute. I don't believe there are such a thing as side effects. What do I mean by that? There are just effects. Okay? They're just effects. We pick which ones we want and which ones we don't. But that substance that we put in our body doesn't have something that's there mainly to do and then a couple others that are annoying. It does what it does. We pick the things that we want and don't. There are just effects that every substance in our body can have. One of the effects of this is not just in movement, but in memory. Memory, Alzheimer's disease, has been studied extensively in CBD oil and health. Remember, too, that CBD oil is not just, our Pure 7 oil is not just CBD. There are over 400 biologically active compounds in hemp oil. And for any given person, any given condition, we don't know exactly which ones are the ones doing most of the pulling. Seizures. This was the thing that got CBD oil at much higher concentrations than are in our oil, even though they don't work as well, approved in our state. Our state is going to be Indiana. It's going to be one of the last ones ever to probably approve medical marijuana. But they knew that we had nothing that came close to this for children with seizures. So seizures are a major thing that's improved, and there's multiple studies that show that. ADHD. ADHD is basically an imbalance between your sympathetic, your fight or flight nerve system, and your parasympathetic nerve system in the brain. ADD is what a brain looks like under sympathetic fight or flight state drive all the time. When you add cannabinoids back in, that finds a better balance. It slows down thinking to the point you can choose instead of your mind. And one that's near and dear to my heart, and I've talked to some practitioners already about looking to do some studies on people that have had brain injury, post-concussion syndrome, people like me that grew up playing football that didn't know that every time we got passed out, it wasn't just, I'll get up and rub some dirt on it. But we were doing brain damage to ourselves and to others. And people are suffering tremendously. Junior stay out and all the way to suicide. So sick becomes the mind and the brain from post-concussions. And this is a real soft spot for me. I was the team physician for Indiana University football for 4 years. And at the end, I didn't feel I could ethically continue to do it because I knew what we were doing to these kids when they were going through school. But now we have found a tool that helps. There are no drugs approved for post-concussion syndrome, none. But there are studies for how CBD can help the brain reconfigure, rebuild part of itself with CBD as a help. And I'm going to talk about that more. So let's talk about the 7 Hemp CBD Oil. Again, I almost think the CBD is a bit of a misnomer because that's not the only thing in this. Again, 400 biological compounds that are in this. And for a given condition, any one of those or any group of those more likely are what is bringing help to that patient. So just know about this oil. This is organically sourced. It's full spectrum. The whole plant's there, not just the seeds. So if you go online and try to buy hemp seed oil, you're not going to get anything like this product. This is rich in cannabinoids of many, many different types. There are lots of cannabinoids, not just CBD and just THC. Also, the big thing to know about this product that's going to set it dramatically apart from anything else that is on the market at all is this is a water-soluble product. And we're going to talk in a little bit of depth about why that's so important. Being water-soluble allows you to get it in your system efficiently. So you don't have to use a ton of it. Because I'm telling you, folks, if this stuff wasn't water-soluble, a bottle of this stuff wouldn't cost $100. It would cost about $800 or $1,000. That's how expensive organic hemp oil and CBD oil is. You couldn't afford it, most of us, and definitely not most of our patients couldn't. But the fact that it's water-soluble means we can use a very small amount and get a huge effect. Also, the fact that it's water-soluble, it starts working and getting your system in moments after you put it under your tongue and then swallow it, such that the time it takes to take effect can be as little as 5 to 15 minutes, as opposed to a lot of other oils that may take up to an hour or an hour and a half. All right. So let me say something about this too, because we're not getting much resistance trying to tell people about CBD right now. But just know, if you're going out, and it's going to come because some really powerful people and people with a lot of money are going to be losing market share to a supplement, and they're not going to like it. So this is a quote from Niccolo Machiavelli. There's nothing more difficult to carry out, nor more doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to handle than to initiate a new order of things. For the reformer has enemies in all those who profit by the old order. This is important to mention for a couple of reasons. But one I want to say, and I really, this is the second thing I'm going to ask you to really, really take to heart. The way that you present this to other people is going to matter. It can matter, in fact, to the point that it could limit how available this is going to be for us in the years to come. Because you cannot go out and say that this stuff is going to cure cancer. You can't say this cures epilepsy. You can't say, for FDA rules, that any supplement is there to treat, to cure, or prevent any disease that is out there. What you can say is that your endocannabinoid system interacts with all of these conditions, and this oil can help your endocannabinoid system work. If it works better, these conditions can be less harmful to your system. You can say that, but you can't say this is a cure for anything. And if people aren't careful and they're out doing that, it's going to open us up to some risk. So I'm not trying to be a naysayer or anything. I'm just asking y'all to take stock and know the rules around what you're doing so that we can have this great product for a long time. So, go to our next slide here. This is one I want to really point out to you. What are some of the actions of the endocannabinoid system? What does it do in your body? One of the things that it does is it's for neuroprotection. It helps keep your nerves healthy. If you don't have cannabinoids or enough cannabinoid action, then your nerves are at risk. And so tons of conditions in the brain and in the peripheral parts of the body that are related to pain, are related to spasm, are related to memory, balance, movement, and so forth are all at risk and have more likely to have problems if you have some other conditions. Your ability to recover from stress is directly attributed to the endocannabinoid system. Your mood, your memory, your ability to control your motor function is run by the ECS. So I'm going to use that term a lot if you're on audio with us. The endocannabinoid system or the ECS. It's just easier to say. So your immune function, pain perception, appetite, sleep, bone development, even osteoporosis and osteopenia are impacted by the cannabinoid system. And this has blown away some people that I know, good friends who are in medicine, who are orthopedists. They didn't know this. Why? Nobody told us. Why? There was no money in it for some big company. You have to find this information yourself when it comes from the natural world. So what else can we understand about the ECS? You can be low in cannabinoids, as I mentioned. This is again, I'm going to put this, the next thing I'm going to ask you to please remember. You can have a deficiency in your endocannabinoids just like you can have a deficiency in potassium, just like you can have a deficiency in testosterone, just like you can have a deficiency in estrogen or serotonin or dopamine or name it. This is no different. And if your cannabinoids are low, then replacing them with something from the natural world that puts them back is very likely to make your system function better. That's as complex as you have to make it. So many disease states are caused by, we believe, or at least strongly influenced by a lacking cannabinoids. 3 of them that are very, very challenging for us to treat in medicine: irritable bowel syndrome, migraines, fibromyalgia. We even have medicines that are out there for fibromyalgia that tout their success when it only improves things by just a few percentage points. That's no good. The relief that people can get by putting their cannabinoids back in their body is much greater and far safer and far less expensive. So the fact, this is one of the things that sold me on this. When I looked at the conditions that we have so few good treatments for, that actually there's great data for from the natural world, I was completely sold. Other functions of cannabidiol. Cannabidiol is one of those cannabinoids, and specifically it's called a phytocannabinoid. Again, your body makes some cannabinoids, but cannabidiol comes from plants, but it interacts with our receptors. It's an antiemetic. It makes you not throw up. It's an anticonvulsant, meaning it stops seizures. It's an antipsychotropic, meaning it helps stabilize mood. Anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-tumoral. It's an anti-anxiety agent, as well as something. What else does CBD do? It works on more receptors than just the receptors in the endocannabinoid system. When it comes to pain, again, there are myriad types of receptors and chemicals and molecules that are involved in your brain being able to tell that your low back hurts. Some of those are, and that's just an example, or anywhere in your body. The amount of things that the body does to get that information to your brain is mind-boggling. But one of the more important ones is what we call the vanilloid receptors. They're also called the TRPV1 receptors, if you're interested. But they're very important in pain modulation. But those receptors are hit on by CBD, and they do what? Turns down pain. The adenosine receptors are very important for the sleep-wake cycle. And one thing I want to say about this is you're going to talk to some people, and they're going to say, well, wow, I took the CBD oil, and I slept better. And you're going to talk to someone else, and they're going to say, wow, well, I took it, and I had more energy. Guess what? They're both right. How could that be from one agent? It's actually not as complex as it may sound, but your brain in the hypothalamus, which is kind of one of the big centers of your autonomic background health control, has a switch in it. And that switch tells you whether to be asleep or whether to be awake. And through all the dumb things we do in life, from getting bad food, too much stress, too much alcohol or other substances, not getting enough sleep in general, having too much light pollution, working nights, which your body's really not built to do. All of these things attenuate, and they don't just make you not sleep well. They make that switch from sleep-wake not work efficiently. When you put the cannabinoids back in, you get both deeper sleep and more awake. And if you don't believe it, try it and see if you don't find it true. Serotonin receptors, which are very important for mood and stress management, are highly acted upon by cannabidiol. And if you can put cannabidiol back in, then those conditions that are related to that can see improvement. Other things that CBD can do, diabetes. This blew some of my friends who are in endocrinology away. Why would it be connected to diabetes? It's more of a nerve medicine, they thought. We're going to explain that in just a little more detail in a minute. Cancer. The CBD turns on and off genes that are involved with the way your body recognizes cancer and how it gets rid of it. Lupus is one of those autoimmune conditions that there are good data on the use of CBD for improving symptoms and helping reduce inflammation. The motor disorder, as I mentioned already. Nicotine addiction, the place in your brain that determines how badly you want something that you're addicted to, whether that's nicotine, alcohol, heroin, other opiates, to name just a few, is acted upon directly by cannabinoids. And what we believe is if you don't have enough of those cannabinoids, then your drive to go get something that you're addicted to is greater. So the potential of using this for people struggling with addictions is tremendous. And there is data, there is research around that. But it's also something that you don't have to be so bad that you got to go to a rehab center. Just if you're struggling with quitting smoking, this is a tool that potentially could make it easier for you to do that and get that stuff out of your life for good. Chronic and neuropathic pain, obsessive compulsive disorder, osteoporosis, lots of pediatric conditions. Again, people ask me, well, is this safe for kids? Well, remember, the only thing it got approved in a lot of states, including mine, was using kids. Just remember that. So it has anti-seizure effects. It has neuroprotective and anti-inflammatory conditions like Alzheimer's, stroke, glutamate toxicity, multiple sclerosis. This is a terrible thing that we have to try to treat, and we can have help for those patients who have it with CBD. Parkinson's disease, neurodegeneration caused by alcohol. If you look at a lot of the CAT scans and the brain scans on patients that have been a long time user of heavy alcohol, their brain actually gets smaller. It shrinks, and it shrinks faster than it would from just normal conditions or normal aging. And we know that you can attenuate some of the damage that alcohol has done to our nerve system and our brain by using CBD. Analgesic effects. This helps in pain both in your brain and out in the system. People have talked about using hemp oil by rubbing it on topically. It can really help that way. But taking it internally helps your brain change the way that it deals with signals for pain. So again, this is not just CBD that is in this oil that you're getting. And that's why I don't know that the name that we're using currently is really the best description of what we have. Again, over 400 compounds that have been identified just so far, and I'm telling you, that's not all of them. But some of the other ones that are in here that are categorized that we have a good understanding of, we have cannabidiol, we have CBG, CBC, other cannabinoids, terpenes down in the lower left there. Terpenes are actually what make all the essential oils have a smell. If it's lavender oil, if it's ylang ylang, whatever it is, terpenes are what give it that smell. Terpenes are also what gives marijuana that kind of skunky aroma that it has. And the terpenes are very aromatic compounds. They get into tissue very easily, and they're very important at reducing infection. So the terpenes that are in hemp oil have been studied and been shown to be one of the few things that can actually help with MRSA. That's methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, a very dangerous and difficult bacteria for us to treat. This is one of the few things we have that can really help us with that, if someone is okay with kind of turning to the natural world for treatment. But besides MRSA, the terpenes in hemp are also very antifungal. They're very antibacterial. So people ask a lot of times, well, gosh, is this stuff stable? How long will it be good? They actually use hemp oil as a preservative. Now, in the Pure 7 oil, and this is wise, there are other preservatives added to it to help just to make sure that the shelf life is excellent. But in and of itself, it's a very safe compound. It's very hard for it to go bad. The flavonoids are intense antioxidants, and the hemp oil is chock full of those. And those are really important things that given together, if you take all of these things together, that's what's giving you the effect in your body. And for a given condition, you don't exactly know which one is the important one. We call that the entourage effect. But that is also exactly why no drug they ever make to imitate this will ever work. In medicine, what you have to do, and in America, if you're going to make a medicine, you have to take out one molecule, maybe two or so, and you have to know everything about it. You have to shift it enough, because you can't patent natural substances in the United States. You have to mess it up enough to put your name on it. And then when you do that, you have to study it. And those studies are really expensive. In the U.S. right now, I believe the number is around $1.3 billion it takes to go from R&D to get any drug through market. And that's why we will never, ever, ever see a drug that's as good as full-spectrum hemp oil, because they would have to do that for over 400 compounds to get one medicine. So about, what is that, $600 billion for one drug? Never happened. So again, your body produces endocannabinoids. They're part of its natural maintenance system, just like your thyroid hormone, just like your dopamine, just like your serotonin. The hemp plant contains phytocannabinoids that interact with our receptors very efficiently. But again, there are other things in it, not just those that I just mentioned, but also very good omega fatty acids, linoleic acid, alpha-linoleic acids, and among others. And all of these things together help keep your cell membranes very flexible, which makes them healthy and resistant to damage, and therefore resistant to disease. Multiple other vitamins, vitamin A, B1, B2, B3, B6, B12, vitamin C, vitamin E, folic acid, magnesium, potassium, iron are all in the hemp oil, and they are part of what gives us that rush effect and improves health. There are high levels in the central nervous system, so in your brain and spinal cord, of those endocannabinoids, the cannabinoids that we make. And two of those that are the most important, the most well-studied, one is called Anandamide, and the other is called 2-arachidonyl glycerol, or 2-AG. And they're two good things to memorize. If that's a little, too much chemistry for you, I get accused all the time. Well, you sometimes, talk about this in such a way that, who could understand it? You know what I find? I find a lot of patients know more of the chemistry and the science than a lot of the doctors they go sometimes to see. And what I wish right now is I could see how many heads are nodding from those people that are listening, because it's true. The information is out there, and it is not as complex as you may seem. And that myth of complexity is one of those things that leaves a gap between you and your physician and takes your power away at controlling your health. So learn about this stuff. Step forward, learn a little bit of biochemistry. It's not that hard. The more you know about it, the more power you'll have, the more you'll understand this, and the more you'll be able to explain it well to other people when they have questions. 2-AG, that endocannabinoid, is very prevalent in animal milk, including breast milk. We think that's one of the things that helps make babies feel so docile and calm when they're breastfeeding. Anandamide is a neurotransmitter. As I mentioned, all the endocannabinoids are, and it does go across the synapse itself, and it's one of the things that keeps your nerves talking to each other throughout the body. Cannabinoids are what we call agonists, meaning that they make nerve receptors work, and they unlock other receptors in the body that are involved with other neurotransmitters, again, like dopamine, serotonin, alpha-aminobutyric acid, all the other neurotransmitters that run the systems in our body, especially our nerves, are impacted on by cannabinoids. And these occur in high levels in the central nervous system. They are in every organ you have. They are in your skin. They're in the digestive tract and the reproductive glands. Anandamide, the root word of that is Ananda, which is Sanskrit for bliss. So that is, why did they name it that? Because they recognized that chemical was related to us feeling good. This was identified in 1992 at Hebrew University, and Dr. De Silva always points out that some of the best research in the world that's done on cannabinoids comes out of Israel, and they're still heavily working on it. So if you look in the literature, you're going to see a ton of those studies and those data come from Israel. Anandamide is found in chocolate. It's one of the big things that make you feel good when you eat that. It's produced by the body when you meditate. It's also part of what gives you that runner's high when you kind of get on that cloud. That's anandamide that you're feeling. That's a cannabinoid. So there's an enzyme called fatty acid amide hydrolase, and it is an enzyme that breaks down your cannabinoids. Well, many things can determine how much of that enzyme is working. And if there's too much of that enzyme working, you could be breaking down your cannabinoids too quickly, and that could be a reason that people get low. And then that's going to affect your ability to feel pleasure, again, have effects on your appetite, on reproduction, sleep and brain function and pain. It's also good for dry skin. All those other nutrients that I mentioned are things that you can get topically into the skin, or when you take it orally, it gets into your blood vessels and then it's carried to the skin. Either way that you take it, you can help the skin be more, have more moisture. You can help it have more resistance to infections, so things like acne, even rosacea, potentially could be helped by taking this, plus all the anti-infectious properties that I mentioned earlier. So one of the reasons, again, I want to point out and talk in detail about why this oil is going to be better than a ton of other oils that are going to be on the market. In fact, anyone, I'm dead serious, better than anyone that is out there that I have seen. Hemp oil is what we call lipophilic. It's an oil. And what do you know about oil and water? They don't mix. Well, the lining of your gut is covered with water. And so things that are oil don't like to get in there. This is the whole reason that you have a gallbladder, or if somebody cut it out. What it does is store bile salts, and bile is what helps you break down fat to turn it into something water-soluble so you can get it. It's so difficult for fat to get across that intestine barrier that the bioavailability of most fats, including most hemp oil, is only about 6%. What does that mean? If you take in 100 milligrams, which is really expensive, again, as I mentioned, of hemp oil at a dose, only about 6% is actually going to get into your bloodstream. And that, again, is really expensive because pure CBD is about $30,000 a kilogram, $30,000 a kilo. So the average daily cost is going to be $20 a day for someone trying to take this. Not many people can afford that. So what did we do? Well, Dr. De Silva and Zilis, again, have worked with a company that has helped develop a hemp oil that is water-soluble. And now we have a hemp oil that is 85% bioavailable. What does that mean? Well, if you compare 6% to 85%, that means you've got an oil that you can get to work and work extremely well, and you can use 14, 15 times less than you would have to in other products. That keeps the cost down, it makes it accessible for people that otherwise couldn't, and it makes it work faster. So PureZorb is the company that makes our oil, and there's a great lecture online from Matt Smith who talks about how they did this. It is very, very difficult. He talks about how people came to them for years wanting them to make a water-soluble hemp oil. And people could do it in the lab and they could do it on small scale, but they were the first ones to make it doable on a large scale at all. And what it does, if you have access to this slide, look in the lower right part, there's a little ball is what it looks like. And the ball has yellow on the inside, long tails, and then little bitty balls on the outside. And that's called a micelle. What a micelle is where you make the fat droplet inside stick together, and then the surface tension on the outside makes it basically work like a water droplet. When that sucker hits the gut wall, it flattens out and gets sucked right in through, and then that gets you to get it into the bloodstream. And the way they do this is complicated, and it's something that there's a lot to it, and it's the secret to getting it into a form that allows us to keep the doses low and the effects very high and affordable. But again, 85% of this gets into the GI tract, gets into the system, and that is absolutely extraordinary for an oil-based substance. So again, because of its stability, there's no temperature concerns. It's stable for a long time. Because it's water-soluble, this is something that's going to work in 5 to 15 minutes instead of over an hour. And so this product is one that you're just not going to find anything out there that works quite like it. And when I first heard about it and I didn't know, I wasn't educated, I kind of thought, yeah, well, there's lots of those. When I looked at it and I read what Dr. De Silva had talked about and what he described in it, I was absolutely blown away. And that's why it has changed my practice already so much. So again, it's making a water-soluble hemp oil that you can store and not have to worry too much about the conditions it's in is absolutely remarkable. And you're not going to find any product in the world that's like it. So that is it. So, Stephen, I'll ask you to pop back in here and we'll see what questions we got.
You got it, my man. Awesome job, Dr. Andry. Let me get back connected. I've been taking notes tonight. What an incredible call. You know, I got to tell you, have somewhat of your stature, of your credibility, your credentials, and everything really all, you know, kind of brought together to have you sharing this in such detail with such passion. And And authenticity is awesome. And I think that the image that you see on the screen is very exciting. When you think about, where this is going to go, this is extraordinary. We'll talk about what you mentioned a moment ago in regard to the growth of the industry here in just a moment. But prior to doing that, let me just check our questions. We have quite a few folks that were messaging in. Again, we are obviously going to attempt to keep these questions somewhat, and I don't want to call it generic, it's not the right word, but obviously we can't ask Dr. Andry on a live call to give, private, advice, if you will. But I do know some of you guys will have some specifics here. Let me just see if I can get to those. And we will get those covered here. 1 second. Oh, they disappeared on me. Okay. All right. Let me just go with a couple that I saw, actually. Some people submitted some questions before you started. Okay. How much oil should someone take, Dr. Andry? How much, one dose, right, which is either a full dropper from a large bottle under their tongue, or a 1 second squeeze, a full second from our mini bottle is considered a dose. How much should people take? Should they take more than one? Can you give us a little bit of an idea there, please?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that is a challenge with any kind of natural supplement, compare that to the pharmaceutical world. They do entire millions of dollars studies to just determine what is the right dose for a significant number of people. We can't do that in the natural world. So all that we know about dose is we have to take a good estimated guess at it, and far more importantly, we have to individualize it. Now, one of the best things about CBD oil is it is actually impossible, unless you drowned in it, to die from it. We joke about and we talk about it. The only person that has died from hemp in the last 4,000 years has been when somebody turned it into a rope and hung somebody with it. You can't overdo it. So know that off the bat. Now, what we do is we start somebody on a full dropper once a day under the tongue for several seconds, up to a minute, maybe even longer, and then swallow it. And then what I tell people is if you find that really helps with whatever condition you've got, and a different dose might be needed for different types of conditions. If you're taking it as just a supplement and you don't have any big health problems that it's really trying to treat, that's probably perfectly fine. If you have a really severe pain condition, you might find that you need to take this 3 times a day or so, or twice a day. Perfectly fine. You're really not going to overdo it. If you take it and you get some effects, I'm not even going to, like I said, call them side effects, or some effects that you don't necessarily want, like if you feel, and gosh, even these are so rare, slightly agitated or a little bit of a headache, then take a little bit less and take that once a day. But typically the dose that we use is 1 full ml under the tongue 1 to 3 times a day.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we found that, some people, they tend to, they kind of discover, what works, almost like their body talks to them and communicates, just kind of communicates to you like you would crave anything, that, hey, I think I need some oil. So that's exciting. We are getting a question about kids. I'll answer this with you guys. We do not market our products to be used by anyone under the age of 18, okay? And that's our official stance. It has to be our official stance on that. I just want to make sure that that is, that is clear. I think that in the question of, Dr. Andry, in regard to, people that have, learning challenges, things like that, you addressed this earlier actually in the first portion, but could you just readdress that, people that have, attention issues, learning issues, things such as that, can you see this supporting, enhancement or improvement in that regard?
Absolutely. Again, it can be a little bit confusing. I mean, one thing to think about, what do we try to treat people with now who have ADD or get diagnosed with ADD or ADHD primarily? We tend to use we tend to use stimulants like Adderall or Ritalin. But what do they say about people that are on too much of those? Do they say on a stimulant they're bouncing off the walls and climbing things? And no, they say they look like zombies. So our naming them or thinking about them as stimulants is really a bit misleading. You have to know what the effect of that molecule is in the system. Well, the effect of a dopamine-related molecule in the system in someone who has ADD is that it tends to slow the thinking. It tends to slow your thinking. Why would it do that? That's why I like using the description or the paradigm that ADD is what your brain looks like when it's under the fight or flight system. Why? Because you can multitask. If you were here 100,000 years ago, you could jump over a creek and, grab your kid and swing from a tree vine and fight something off and save your life. You're not really worried about sitting down and reading a book. There weren't even any then, or cave paintings or whatever. But that is what you do when you're safe, when you're not under duress, when you're not under stress. If you're under stress, you want to be able to multitask. So anything that helps slow the brain speed down will be something that supports the ability to focus, to attend, and do one thing well at a time. That's why this helps in ADD.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, guys, we have quite a few of you guys that are asking, very specific, individual, health questions that are, again, just very specific and really deserve a specific response. If you want to shoot us an email, health@zilis.com. That is our official kind of channel, if you will, to bring questions in to Dr. De Silva, Dr. Andry, and the team. And again, this is a dietary supplement. I want to remind you guys, so we have to monitor and we have to make sure that we do follow the guidelines. We don't market this, as Dr. Andry shared, as anything other than a dietary supplement. But we certainly will do our best to answer that question. Dr. Andry, the question in regard to pregnancy, I know that's a straightforward answer. Always consult your physician, when it comes to if you're pregnant, right, nursing, things like that. Very, very important. Let me ask you this, Dr. Andry. What about an empty stomach versus, should you take it with food, empty stomach, night, day? Any, suggestions in that regard?
Yep, absolutely. One of the things about it is that, and it's a good question because there are many drugs that are out there and even many supplements that your ability to absorb them is determined partially by how recently you've eaten. In other words, if your stomach is turning on because you've eaten other foods, you're making some of the enzymes that you might help to break down certain drugs. That's not really the case with the CBD oil. It really doesn't matter that much. When you take this oil, again, especially if you leave it under the tongue for any length of time at all, a fair proportion of it is going to be absorbed right in through your skin. A lot of the absorption actually happens in the esophagus before it even gets to the stomach. But then throughout the stomach and the lining of the intestines, it's immediately going right through the wall and into the blood vessel. So it should work very well with or without food. As far as morning and night, I will say that it can depend a little bit on what you take it for. If you're taking it for, say, sleep, interestingly, it may work better for you if you take it earlier in the day or earlier in the evening than if you take it right before bed. It depends on how your body responds. But in general, as it would make sense, trying to take it before bed, say an hour before bed or so, might be just about right. But you need to tailor it to your own system because, again, because it works on so many systems, because there are so many individual molecules in it, you're not always going to be able to predict exactly what your response is going to be, and you have to be willing to adjust.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. It is the craziest thing, Dr. Andry. It's almost like this product, it talks to me. It's like, hey, Stephen, like it has a little imaginary person tapping on my shoulder. Hey, you need a shot of your 7, which is crazy. Laura, I'm going to ask you to take that question to health@zilis.com. Donnie, that question, if you could take that question as well. Robin, if you could take that question to health@zilis.com. Sergio asked here about pets. Guys, I just want to quickly, Dr. Andry, I'll answer this one. Our product does have xylitol inside of it. So xylitol is a wonderful and absolutely incredible natural sweetener. It's actually made from a tree. It's 100% natural, and actually it's very good for your teeth. Believe it or not, xylitol actually helps to prevent cavities. So there is monk fruit, stevia, xylitol, just a variety of all natural sweeteners there that are there's no sucralose, things like that in the product, and no sugar as well. But an amazing sweetener. But just make sure you're familiar, guys. Dr. Andry obviously is not an expert in that regard, and guys, we really are very careful we want to make sure that we're clear. This is a dietary supplement, an amazing product. So again, just please appreciate your understanding there. We're not, again, some of the questions we're getting quite a few here are really, really specific questions to you and to your own individual situations there. Here's one for you from Kinford and Catherine. Hey, let me make sure. Okay, what if it makes me sleep all day? What do you suggest I do there? Dr. Andry, talk to us about, well, I don't know if that's coming from Kinford or Catherine, but talk to us a little bit about that question, if you would.
Well, I was going to say, I guess that depends on how much he bugs you. Hey,
Kinford's my homie there, man.
No, if it makes you kind of sleepy, I would say take less. Maddie, who has had a lot of experience with this already, and one of the reasons I've been really enamored and kind of in love with this product is that she suffers, if I can say that, dear,
sure, babe.
really, really terrible migraines. And she can't take a lot of the medications that are out there that we have as tools. The first dose she took of this, it helped her headache in less than 5 minutes. But what she found was it didn't take as much as a typical dose to do it. So now she takes a smaller dose a little more frequently as she needs, if she feels anything that may even begin to bring it on. And again, as opposed to a lot of other drugs that may have been, when the triptans for migraines came out, maybe $30, $40 a dose. I know Heather knows that. I think you're terribly sick. This is nothing like that. Cost, and it's totally safe to do. So you have to tailor it to your system.
Yeah, I totally agree. Dr. Andry, here's what's crazy. I was telling Jenny about this the other day. If I take, a dose, which is, whether it's a 1 second squeeze from a mini bottle or a dropper full from the big one, it'll help me rest well. But if I take 2 doses right before bed, I am out. And I don't know if that's just, it's talking to my body and communicating, whatever it may be, but it's almost, what I call, from a layman's term perspective, a smart product.
That's not very far off. I mean, because here's the beauty. The body was so intelligently built that when you're providing it, think about, what you eat in your whole diet. If you mashed up all you ate in a day with into a supplement and then took it, what effect would you get? Well, you wouldn't get one effect. You'd get many. With all the different compounds that are in this, you could get many effects. And each of the effects that you're actually looking for might be driven by only 1 or 2 or a few of the compounds in it, and you don't know what dose it takes to give you that. So whenever we're talking about replacing something that's low or replacing many things that are low, it is very difficult to predict what's going to get better.
Dr. Andry, any way that Steve asked, is any way to raise your blood sugar levels?
That this would raise it?
Yes, that's the question.
Typically, no, this will lower it. And there are a few very specific reasons for that. One is, as many drugs that are out now for diabetes, a lot of the way they work to help your sugars, they lower your appetite. Well, this lowers your appetite. So if you eat less, sugar drops. Further, this works a lot like a couple of the medicines, or at least on the same part of the diabetes system as some of the medicines we have out, you may have heard of Actose. Well, one of the things it does, its primary source of place of action is called the PPAR gamma system in our cells and in our mitochondria. CBD works in the same place, so it helps you believe number one, it helps you not break down the pancreas and destroy your insulin-producing cells, which is what happens in most type 2 diabetes. So it helps you make insulin and keep your insulin production more efficient, which should help keep your sugar down.
Absolutely. A question here from Pam, and I want to tread a little bit lightly on this because, it's obviously very important if someone is on a very specific, medication, things like that. We always want to recommend that they go to their doctor. But just in general, can you touch on if people are on pharmaceuticals, or prescriptions, et cetera? Is there any can you give just a general, sense, while still certainly encouraging them to obviously go to their physician first, any interactions, anything along those lines, just to be aware of?
Yep, absolutely. And I'll say first that the thing to know about interactions, and this is true whether it's other pharmaceuticals or natural supplements, it is very, very difficult for us to know and predict exactly how it would interact with both some substance and your individual body at the same time. As far as things to be careful of, there really aren't all that many things that this is going to dramatically change the way your body either metabolizes or gets rid of other drugs. It's not going to limit the way you absorb them very much. the one thing I always think about is people that are really struggling with very severe mental disorders. You know, the intricate balance that they may need for their medications that they're on, again, because it can be difficult to predict the great things that this may do for you, it might also be difficult to predict the exact things it might do that aren't so good for you, especially if you have a health condition that's extremely on the edge of a knife. So if people are dealing with severe mental disorders like severe schizophrenia or something like that, I always tell them to be extremely careful with using any supplement, including this one. That said, what I tend to do in my practice is that people are using this maybe for a condition that they're also taking a medication for, and I'm managing it, then I tell them to go ahead and stay on your medicine. Add this to it. If you find it's really helping, maybe see if you can back off on the other one. And as long as it wasn't something that someone else prescribed and was being managed, and I know I'm going to monitor them, I feel comfortable doing that. If you're doing this yourself and you're uncomfortable talking to your doctor because you know that if you tell them you're taking a supplement, what kind of answer you're going to get, you may need some other help.
Yeah, exactly.
To know if it's safe for you to do that. So be willing to talk to your doc, but I'm just telling you this in general as a medical doctor myself. If you're not getting the kind of help you need, if you're getting nothing but pushback and your internal being is telling you that you need something for your health, don't you dare go down the tubes because you're uncomfortable to tell them what you needed.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Yep, that's. I know exactly what you're saying there. We appreciate you for that. Here's one. This is maybe even a little humor. So Cynthia asked, should you wait a while to drink something after you take it? I'm not sure if she needs a glass of water or maybe a glass of wine, Doc. I'm not. I'm thinking maybe it's the latter. Maybe who knows there. What would you have to say to either one of them?
Yeah. I mean, it's a fair question. I mean, some people actually feel like if they take this and have alcohol, that it can take them a little more alcohol to get the same effect. And that can be a bit of a problem because you may not feel what you normally would feel and kind of overdo it. Other people might feel that if it makes them sleepy, then it could kind of meld with the effects of the alcohol and that they get too sleepy too quickly. So you're just going to have to experiment. And when you do that, I would say it's best to not do both at the same time until you can try it at home when you're home and safe, and be very light with the doses and trust your body.
All right, Cynthia. So, you need to watch out, with that wine, okay? I'm picking on her. She's messaging me right now telling me to stop it. I think she was talking about her. Okay. How about a couple things here? Sulfur sensitivity, shellfish allergies. Any indications there you're aware of?
That's a fair question. I do not know. I can't think of one reason shellfish allergy would be a problem. What was the first one?
Sulfur sensitivity?
Sulfur. Sulfur exists in a ton of different molecules, and as many compounds as there are in hemp oil, I guarantee you some of them are sulfide related, at least. But they may be in concentrations that it doesn't matter. There's sulfur in every cell in your body. So people really can't be allergic to sulfur. They can be allergic to sulfates. And there may be some sulfates that are in this in really minuscule doses. I've said in general, I have patients that have some sulfate issues. They can't take Lasix or they can't take, some Bactrim or medicine like that. That wouldn't keep me from trying it in them, but it would make me be somewhat diligent and have them take it low doses for a few days to make sure how their body responded before they get up on it.
Quite a few folks just messaged in. I was having shellfish sensitivity and the fact that they don't have any issues, so that's interesting there. And let me ask you this question. This is a big one here. Do you need? Okay, so quite a few people are still messaging severe shellfish sensitivity and have no problems with the hemp oil. So thank you for that. Let me ask you, what about here's a good question from Deb in Ohio. Does THC, right? There's this whole medical marijuana thing out there. Does having THC in the product, does it actually help? Or I guess the antithesis of that question is actually, does it hurt? What's the difference, if you will, if you could just address medical marijuana, because we hear that a lot, it's a big buzzword, and, just the power of full spectrum hemp oil, if you could, please.
Yep. In general, again, and this is an overgeneralization because that the true answer to that is probably another hour-long talk. And in all honesty, we probably don't have all those answers, and no matter who you're talking to on planet Earth at this point. But what we do know is that THC and CBD by and large, are a bit of a yin and yang in the hemp plant. A lot of the things that THC does in your body, CBD will do a little bit of, not necessarily the opposite, but it will act to balance it. One of the ways that's not so much true is that both CBD and THC very much can help with pain, and they do so in different ways. But think about, the high THC strains of marijuana that people may take, like some of the real big sativa strains. Do they calm you down or do they rev you up? They rev you up. And what do the high CBD strains do? They calm you down. So in general, that's why CBD is so helpful in a lot of the conditions like movement disorders like Parkinson's disease and seizures, because they tend to add, it's like putting oil on the water on a rough lake. It helps really smooth it out. THC tends to be fairly activating to most different nerve systems. So that's the way that it's a grotesque oversimplification, but it's the way that I generally think about the two together. So yes, if what you're needing for a certain condition is nerve calming, then the addition of THC could be a negative. If you're using it for something like pain, then maybe you could take THC with the CBD and it's not such a big deal. But in a given person and a different strain, that's one of the problems that I sort of have or see with the not medical marijuana as a concept, but in utilizing it. Man, how do you know what you're getting? Every
wow, yeah, good
batch
point.
you get has different stuff in it, and you don't know the dose, and you don't know how potent that bud is you have compared to something else, and whether you're smoking it or eating it, you don't know the concentration. This is a supplement that is measured and vetted and FDA managed, and you know what you're getting and can tailor the dose to you every time. So it's an utterly different way to go about managing a health condition.
Interesting. Well, I'm getting tons of people. This is great feedback. The sulfate question, right? Saying I have sulfate sensitivity and no problems. That's no problems on the other question there. That's great. What about a rash? Could this cause a rash, and also could it cause heartburn?
Got it. It probably could cause either in a given person, but you don't know what type. I mean, xylitol. It may not be the hemp oil or the CBD oil at all. Yeah. It could be what we're using to color. It could be the xylitol. Xylitol is there are certain people that just can't tolerate much of that at all. Any of you out there who some of the artificially sweetened gum that's out there, if it upsets your stomach, it's possible this could too. So you don't know what component that is in it. Even if it is in the hemp oil, because there are 400 substances in it, you don't know which one of those is the one doing it. But here's the nice thing. The likelihood is that you can probably find a dose that, again, not everybody can, but a number could, where if a full ml did it to you, it's possible a half ml wouldn't.
Great point.
Most of those effects will be related to the dose. And if you can find that sweet spot for what you're taking it for, which might really be different than for what someone else is taking it, then you're likely to find an amount and a frequency that's going to work well for you. If you don't, it may not be for you. And I've had one person that I've had take it so far that says they think they got a rash. Again, to what? I don't know. I mean, you can have a hypersensitivity to any substance, whether that's a commercial or industrial one or something that's natural in the product. But here's what's important. Know that rash is, in a way, your body trying to communicate to you. And it may be saying, this isn't right. Or maybe it's just saying it's not right for you right now. But listen to it. And, if you don't take it now, don't lose heart. There's lots of other ways to maybe accomplish the same thing. And then keep trying maybe other doses or other types, and talk to somebody who's knowledgeable about it.
Completely agree. I think that what you just said about trying, different, whether it be taking a dose and splitting it up in half or even quarters, just have to see what happens, and then try it at different times as well, right? To see, perhaps if there was another factor that could have been, contributing.
Right.
Someone said to me recently, they said, I don't like the taste. And I said, what do you take it for? And they told me why they took it. I said, well, how do you like the taste of that? And they said, actually, good point. Not very good. I said, exactly.
Right.
But no, certainly, without a doubt, you just have to play around. Hey, anything known in regard to, if someone's on a blood thinner, and again, we're not, this is just a general overall question. Obviously, if you're on any prescription, guys, you definitely always consult your physician before you begin taking any supplement. Anything that
just from a conceptual perspective that it would influence there?
No, I mean, there really aren't any drugs that just jump out at you and say, gosh, you really should take this or this is going to have a bad interaction. Now, that is not true of medical marijuana. If you are someone who is on an opiate for a pain prescription, and this has nothing to do with the way the medications and the supplement would interact in your body. This has to do with legality and guidelines. If you pop for a drug screen with THC, it forces your provider to have to discontinue your treatment. That does not happen with CBD oil. Now, again, I don't want you taking this for your pain without consulting that person, but this is a way to get a great percentage of that pain relief, if not all, that you would need or could get from a cannabis-related product that wouldn't force your provider to have to dismiss you from the practice.
That's it. That's good stuff, man. Dr. Andrew, they keep coming. Many of the questions that, again, a lot of just repeats of many things come through. And how awesome is this, guys, to have someone, highly regarded expert like this to, just share the time freely to answer questions for us. Dr. Andrew, we appreciate it so much, guys. I got to tell you, man, we are excited to have Dr. Andrew. As you heard tonight, is what I said a moment ago, just his ability to just communicate, right? To make things really, just to make them so often for those of us that maybe are just more, regular lay individuals that are business professionals or, whatever, that are not experts in this field, sometimes it can be intimidating, and you bring things, to the place where we can really understand them. And so we appreciate you for, just being who you are, man. Last question I have for you is, talk to us about what you're doing in your practice is awesome. It's like every time I call you, you're like, hey, hang on a second, I'm giving somebody the hip oil. You did that to me today. He's like, and I heard him talking to his patient. He's like, hold on to your tongue, I'll be right back. Talk to us about what you're doing in your own practice and what have you seen?
Yeah, that's what, and this reminds me of other things I've had in my practice, like when I first learned about testosterone, and how it can help guys whose T levels get low and can kind of give them their life back. When I first learned that it wasn't going to harm somebody if I gave them their estrogen back, I looked at it I looked for it everywhere because I thought, gosh, this has been a gap in my information that I've been given for years. And the problem is, and it's not a problem, it's a humbling thing. The cannabinoids are involved in so many systems that literally probably 4 out of 5 patients that I've seen in the last month are dealing with some condition where it is possible that the hemp oil might help give them some improvement. So and I know that just sounds nuts, but I believe it is so common for us to get low in this, that everything we do live in the Western world life just throttles our cannabinoid function. And putting a supplement back and putting these back in, it is very humbling, again, to see what kind of things can get better. So definitely anybody who's dealing with a pain condition, whether that's chronic back pain, whether that's headaches, whether that's TMJ especially, because that has to do not only with the pain that comes from that itself, but the muscle tightness that happens in your jaw and your neck and your skull and your shoulders around it. The CBD is an excellent assistant at getting muscles to relax. That's why so many athletes, bodybuilders, severe, big-time exercisers find that CBD helps them with recovery. So you got 2 mechanisms from the same agent that are helping at the same time. So again, those are the things that I think of first. The next are anxiety disorders, sleep disorders, and then after that, maybe the things that you may not notice the effect in. And a lot of those people, I'm telling you, I can't believe the percentage of times I've given it. And before the visit, I keep a bottle there, and I give them a dose if they're up for it. And I cannot tell you how many times before they leave and walk out the door, they say they feel it. And they feel different. They feel improvement. But there are some conditions that like a really inflammatory one, that you're not going to notice that for a period of time. It needs time to work. And for that, the rheumatoid arthritis, the things like that. Again, I'm not telling them to stop their Enbrel or their other, drugs. But I'm trying with those patients and people that really struggle with some things, we need every tool in our belt we can use. And this is just a very one that can work in potentially so many systems because the cannabinoids help regulate it.
That's it. And you know what you just said there is so true, and that's why this industry is projected to grow 700% by the year 2020, guys. Guys, I want to encourage you to come out, be a part of the events going on nationwide that are happening, here for you this week. We also have a conference call schedule. Our top leaders are coming together to share this opportunity in a major way. I mean, guys, I just don't know about you. A company that, offers a product like this at 20-something% below the regular retail price, but also at the same time gives you the ability to touch lives across the world. That's what it's all about, Dr. Andry. It's about, benefiting your own health, your own, personal well-being, but also knowing that every time you get better health, you're giving better health. Hey, guys, listen, if you're not a part of this team, we invite you to learn more about Zilis tonight if you are a guest. And I echo what Tony shared. If you are in this company and you're not out here sharing this, guys, you got to share this. I sat down on a plane the other day. If you ever, sometimes get on a plane, you're just kind of looking forward to having a little quiet time and just getting some work done or resting or whatever. And I kind of sat down, I was kind of like, not being rude at all, but just kind of sitting there to mind my own business. And I'm sitting next to a gentleman. He starts asking questions, and so tell me where you're from. And next thing we get into a conversation, and before you know, he starts telling me about his wife and just status of her health and all that. And he starts sharing with me things she's dealing with that a number of you that are on this call have dealt with, and I've seen just incredible feedback and results on the oil. And I mean, what am I supposed to say at that point in time? Am I not going to say something to this gentleman? So I said, you know what, let me tell you about a product called 7, and we dove into it at that point in time, but we got some minis in his hand. And, guys, I'm not here to sell the product. I tell people all the time, if you want to become successful in our company, number one piece of advice I'll give you is do not try to become a salesperson. Become a great share person. And if you'll do that, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. So we invite you to take that journey. Conference calls, guys, going all week long. Meetings happening again. Wednesday night, Bloomington, Indiana will be on fire. Thursday night in Carmel will be the biggest meeting in our history. We've got other events being put together, and stay tuned to the schedule, our social media calendars for that. In the meantime, guys, we're going to open up these conference lines. If you are thankful to Dr. Andry tonight for everything that he shared, I want to get in just a second asking you guys to shout out your appreciation to him. Otherwise, guys, we'll hear you on our conference calls tomorrow night. You guys are awesome. Have a great night, everybody. Let's, again, thanks to Dr. Andry for an incredible job tonight.